الحمد لله رب العالمين بارئ الخلائق أجمعين والصلاة والسلام على خير خلقه سيدنا ونبينا ومولانا أبي القاسم محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وأجل فرجهم والصلاة والسلام على أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين واللعنة الله على أعدائهم من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. وأما بعد فقد قال الله سبحانه وتعالى في كتابه المتين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ولنبلونكم بشيء من الخوف والجوع والنقص من الأموال والأنفس والثمرات وبشر الصابرين الذين إذا أصابتهم مصيبة قالوا إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. صدق الله العلي العظيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وأجل فرجهم. Brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My condolences to each and every one of you, to mu'mineen and mu'minat worldwide, to our leadership, Maraja Taqleed, Maqam Muazzam Rahbari. This evening that we continue to commemorate and to remember the revolution of Imam Hussein alayhi salatu wassalam. So as you know, we had started a discussion some days ago concerning imtihanat, concerning tests, trials, tribulations that we face in life. I think that we understand tests, trials and tribulations now from just at least a very basic and fundamental viewpoint that they are a part of life. Don't try to run away from them. It will only make the test, the trial, the tribulation more difficult. Tests, trials, tribulations that we receive in this life are not punishment for our sins. God is not mad at us. He's not out to get us. You need not worry. Every test and tribulation that you face in this life is for our own good, for our own growth, for our own development. And if we have made mistakes, then we hope in the mercy and forgiveness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But be sure, you may not pay for your sins here. There's someplace else to go to pay for them. So this idea that we're here suffering for our sins and tribulations, this is not the case at all. So we had mentioned a few things even concerning tests. Not just that there's a fundamental to tests and to test taking, but also we had mentioned that Allah will test us by a variety of means. And we had read this verse from Quran already, chapter 2, verse 155. And Allah will most certainly try you with somewhat of fear and hunger, loss of property, lives and fruits, and give good news to the patient. We had been reading this verse over the last few weeks, and this verse gives us a few examples of the ways in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will test us. He's going to test us by means of fear, by means of hunger, by means of loss of property, loss of income, loss of life. But Bashir al-Sabirin, give good news to the patient. Give good news to the patient. So we had been discussing how to pass tests and how to perfect ourselves in passing these tests and trials that we are given by Allah. And over the last few days we had mentioned some pointers. So you remember we said engage the test. Don't run away from it. View it as a part of life, as something good for you, no matter what it may be. Anwa wa aqsam of test, different types of test. Accept them, they're for our own growth and development and for our own good. Another thing we had mentioned was sabr, having patience in the face of any test that we encounter in life. Enduring tests patiently not only makes the test easier to endure, but it also gives us an opportunity to slow down, think, consider options, make dua, supplicate to our Lord, seek relief. So sabr is also a very important part of patience, also a very important part of dealing with tests. And this verse that we read exemplifies that. It says Allah's going to test you, and Allah will test you with fear and loss of life and loss of property, but give good news to the patient. So let's just give a quick little pop quiz, because that's the type of guy we are. We drop pop quizzes on you with no advance warning. So very quickly then, what's the answer to the test of fear? Nobody knows. Don't fear. The answer to the test of fear is, Baba, don't fear. Have no fear. Fear is only for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And most of the fears that we encounter in life, and this verse makes it very clear, we had mentioned this last night, we may be tested with hunger, we may be tested with loss of life, we may be tested with loss of property, but more than we're ever tested with any of these things, we're tested with fear of loss of property, fear of hunger, fear of loss of life. And fear encompasses human beings, no matter what their religion, no matter what their ethnic background, no matter what language they speak. And most of the fears that we face are illegitimate fears. Fears that have absolutely no basis in reality. And if we fill our hearts with fear, and especially fear of these illegitimate things, then where does fear of Allah fit in? And one of the kids, you see, kids are smarter than adults, and we love the children very much. Adults, you ask them, did you guys understand everything? And everybody nods their head. Yeah, we understood. Mujtahid shadid, you know. You understand something. Kids are the only ones that come up and ask questions afterwards. One of the kids comes up and says, so when you say we should not fear, does that mean we shouldn't fear Allah too? And let's not get these type of fears confused. Taqwa, which we generally translate from Arabic into English as meaning fear of Allah. You look in your dictionary, it can also mean respect. That you should have respect for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His ordinances, and keep those ordinances respectfully. And so when we talk about fear of Allah, we're not talking about fear like how you may fear zombies, or fear how you may fear loss of life, or you may fear loss of property. We're talking about that respect of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we should maintain. Imam Ali alayhi salatu wassalam says there's three types of worshippers. There's the type of worshipper who worships in the desire of heaven or hell. And this is the worship of a businessman. He's trying to gain something. He wants heaven or he wants hell. There's another worshipper that worships out of fear for the punishment of Allah. He is the worshipping of a slave. But Amir al-Mu'mineen says the worshipping of a free man is that you worship Allah because He is worthy to be worshipped. So worshipping out of fear is a slave. Worshipping out of desire for reward is a businessman. Free people, people who are fearless, they worship because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is worthy of being worshipped. So we have some other questions for you then. What's the answer to the test of illness? Patience and shafa'at. And when we say shafa'at, intercession, we don't just mean the intercession of Allah or awliya, but the intercession of doctors is good too. As long as we understand that doctor is a wasila. A lot of people put all their faith in doctor. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He has a wonderful, wonderful saying where He says, whosoever you put your trust in, then I will put you in His hands. So you put your trust, all your trust in the doctor, and no trust in Allah, Allah's going to put you completely in that doctor's hands. You put your trust in your wealth and not your trust in Allah, then your wealth is going to have to get you out of the problems that you get into. So wheresoever we put our trust, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will accept it there. What's the answer to the test of poverty? Patience and hifz-i-iffat, that we should guard and protect our honor. You know, I often joke with people, you know, one of the worst things to do is to beg. Bubba, go get a job. Don't beg. Panhandling, where I come from, we got a lot of panhandlers. I put them to work. Oh, you need something? Sweep the yard. Oh, wait, you want something? Clean that up. One time someone comes to Imam Sadiq and tried to beg Imam Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam for some money. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Imam Sadiq told him, you see this pile of rocks here? Move this pile of rocks over here. So the person did that. He moved all the rocks from one side of the yard to the other. Next day the man comes in, asks for something again, is begging again. Imam Sadiq says, wait, you see this pile of rocks here? I need you to move this pile of rocks from here to put it back over there. Test of poverty is hifz ifat. That's the answer to that. Protect one's honor. Don't beg, don't rob, don't steal. This is the answer to the test of poverty. And patience. Dua. Supplications. What's the answer to the test of tribulation? Trials and tribulation. We've mentioned some of this stuff already. Patience and courage. Don't have any fear. You run into any bala, any trial, any tribulation, be brave. What's the answer to the test of blessings? Brothers are doing fundraising tonight. I don't see anybody that looks like they've missed a meal lately. Nobody looks exceptionally disheveled. Everybody looks like they've got a house to go home to tonight. Many of us are being tested with ni'mat. You're not being tested with poverty. Fi'lan, you're not being tested with ill health. You're not being tested with loss of life, insha'Allah, loss of property. What many of us are being tested with is wealth, blessings. So how do you pass this test? Yeah, be courageous. Don't fear. You can handle it. But at the same time, shukr. Thankfulness to Allah. Gratefulness to Allah is the answer to the test of wealth. Over the last few nights we've been going over these things. And last night we began mentioning those roots of fear in our hearts. Because fear, by and large, is the largest test that we face from Allah. Fear in its variety of forms. And we began mentioning last night how we tear out these roots of fear out of our hearts. Bil khusus, and especially tarsaya bija. Those fears that we have that are not legitimate. All those fears that have to do with a what if. All those fears that we have absolutely no ability to prevent or protect against. We don't even know what will happen. How do we remove those fears from our heart? We mentioned one of them last night. What are one of the causes of these fears in our hearts? Cause of fear? Su'izan bi khuda. That we have a bad opinion of Allah. We think that Allah is out to get us. He's going to punish us. He wants to hurt us. He wants to put us in the hellfire. And we view him like he's dar kameen. He's waiting in ambush. And the first slip up we make, the first mistake we make, then he's there to punish us. And we often think that many of the trials and tribulations that we face in our life are because of something that we've done, some bad deed that we've done, some sin that we've committed. This is not the case. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He loves us. He wants the best for us. He wants to guide us to His straight path. And all we have to do is take a few tests to grow, to develop, to get there, insha'Allah. But number one thing that causes fear in our hearts is that we have a bad opinion of Allah. We think that, why do we have fear of hunger? Because we're not absolutely sure in our hearts that Allah will provide for us. Why do we have fear of loss of property? Because we're not absolutely sure in our hearts that Allah will provide for us. Why do we have all these different fears that we encounter in life? Because we think that Allah is not there for us, and we have to change this attitude. It's not just that I'm going to come here and speak tack to each individual, and our aim is just to change heart by heart. we have to make a change, not just in ourselves, but in our families, in our community, in our neighborhood, in our town, in our county, inshallah one day even in our state. Everywhere that Islam has gone in history, it's made things better. Whether misguided Muslims who totally screwed things up, yeah, and without a doubt. But if you look at history, everywhere that Muslims have gone, we made things better. You know, this idea of Islam being spread by the sword is a fallacy. It's a myth. It never happened. It never happened. How do you spread an ideology by the sword? What do? You split his head open and put the ideology in there and then put it back together? One of Napoleon's generals once told him, you cannot sit on a bayonet. What does it mean? You can't sit on a bayonet. It means with a bayonet, you can conquer territory. But with a bayonet, you cannot rule. Sooner or later, you got to sit down in a chair and make decisions. When Muslims invaded Spain, it was because the kingdoms of Spain were in a weakened state. And the people of Spain were thirsting for a different way. The idea that Muslims marched into Spain and put people like these Daesh and Mal'oon that they have in Iraq and Syria, may Allah wipe them from the face of the earth, insha'Allah. Salawat. And they're lucky that the State Department has certain regulations. Otherwise, we would have gladly gone there ourselves. Wipe them, helped wipe them from the face of the earth. Brothers and sisters, there are enough people there. It can be handled, but Islam was never like this. This Wahhabiyat, this Salafiyat that you see in the world today, it was invented by the British at the same time that they invented the Ahmadi movement, at the same time that they invented the Baha'i movement. What, y'all thought this stuff just sprang out of nowhere, right? People came up with these ideas. No, they've been practicing divide and rule with us for a long time. So, Islam was never spread by force. When Muslims went into Spain, the people willingly accepted Islam. You go back and you read the history for yourself. People, Spanish people who were living in the peninsula at that time, gladly accepted Islam. It was a big relief from Visigoth rule. The Visigoths were no angels. So everywhere we've ever gone, we've made things better. And one of our duties as a community, as a nation of people here, is to make things better also. We have a wazifa, a religious duty, to come here and make things better. From time to time, the FBI comes and asks silly questions. They don't come anymore because they don't like my answers. They come and they ask about foreign influence and terrorism. I said, Baba, if we start blowing up stuff here, there's a chance I might blow up my cousins, aunties, uncles, co-workers, classmates, family members. But the only thing we want to blow up here is our population. Brothers, get married and get to work. We're not that much khatarnak. We're not that much dangerous. No need to fear. It's very important for us to realize that we have a duty here in America. And we're not the only ones suffering with fear. We're not the only ones suffering with the loneliness that comes inside, that Western society creates. This place will sap the spirituality, clean right out of you like a vacuum cleaner. You have to put some special work and special effort. People are thirsty for answers. And the answers are hard to come by, and no one knows where to find them. And the reason the people are stuck in the position they are is because no one is providing a coherent alternative. If someone would just step forward and say, look, Here's a new system, an alternative that's better than what you're doing now. But people would come in droves. But why don't they? Because you and I are poor examples. We're awful examples. So why should anyone be Muslim? Baba, they do the same thing we do. They have the same problems we do. They have the same issues we do. There's no benefit in us becoming Muslims because look at them. Badbacht and bicharan. They're suffering the same diseases we're suffering. So why should they come this way? Anyway, Bigazarim, let's continue our discussion. Salawat. So we want to change not just our own hearts, inshallah, and begin to, number one, have a good opinion of Allah, that He loves us and cares for us and wants to guide us, protect us, help us, grow us, perfect us. Not just in our own hearts, but in our families, and most especially in our community, inshallah. But I promised you last night that we would discuss a little bit more about these roots and mention, inshallah, even eventually the second of those roots of fear in our heart. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said to Imam Ali, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. He says, know that hirs, envy, bukhl, stinginess, which is a good thing. We talk about bukhl tonight, right? It's a fundraising night. You know where bukhl, stinginess, comes from? From fear. It comes from fear. We say, oh no, if I give masjid $100, $150 a month, I won't be able to eat chocolate. If I give masjid $100, $150 a month, why we won't be able to go to tayyibat. So, fear causes bukhl. Fear causes hasad. Fear causes hirs. Fear causes all of these sins that we see, that many of them we're afflicted with, weaknesses that we're afflicted with. It's caused by fear. We have some more hadith, inshallah. Why is it that shuhada, martyrs, don't answer questions in the grave? This is something that you all know the rules of martyrdom. If a martyr dies on the battlefield, he is pure. There is no need to give that martyr a ghusl janaza, a ghusl, a bath that we give all deceased persons. Burnt as they may be, that martyr is pure. No need for ghusl. You can give him ghusl, but no need for it. There's not a necessity for that. Even kafan, you can do that, but it's not necessary. Ainan datan, he becomes pure. What purifies him to that level that we say martyr, shaheed, doesn't need a bath? What purifies the martyr to that level that we say that, look, when me and you enter our graves, we get questioned. But when the martyr enters his grave, no questioning. Murakhas. It's a vacation. Why he doesn't get tested? Why he doesn't get questioned? Why? Because under the rain of arrows, under the rain of bullets, the shaheed, the martyr, didn't fear, didn't lose control of himself, maintained his belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if he gives up his life in this state, he's already been questioned on the battlefield. Under the rain of bullets, he's answered the question, Man Rabbuka, who is your Lord? Under the rain of artillery and bombing by aircraft, he's answered those questions already. Who is your prophet? Who is your imam? What is your book? He's answered these questions already on the battlefield. So when he enters the grave, he doesn't have to answer those questions anymore. We have another saying from Ma'asumin. One of the Imams, one of the Ma'asumin said, whoever fears the maqam of Allah, the station of Allah, then Allah will reward him with 2 heavens. Oh, 2 heavens. I want to make something clear, especially to those who are older, and because a lot of people get confused by this. Like when we talk about Bihisht and Jannat and paradise, you know, one time someone comes to me and he says, Allah, is it true that when we die, we go to heaven, there's going to be gardens of bliss and virgins and fruit trees and good stuff to eat and rivers, and that hell will be populated with fire and brimstone and punishment? Or are these just symbolic language to make us understand? I said, you know, Allah, we've been trying to solve this question for centuries and centuries, and everybody we send never comes back and tells us anything. All whom we send forward, no one have come back to told us, yes, paradise have good wide streets and nice trees and good fruit and virgins. No one comes back to let us know. So I told the brother, look, we're going to try it one last time. We're going to send you. And you come back and you let us know. But only if you promise to come back and let us know. Of course, he didn't want to go. Baba, you want the answer, but you don't want to go in search of it. Like they say back home, right? Everybody wants to go to heaven, but nobody wants to die. There's only one way out of this world. And the only way out is to dig a hole. You got to get 6 feet down under. That's the only way out. You got to die sometime. We have some other sayings, insha'Allah, concerning su'dhan, having a bad opinion of Allah. But what does it mean when Allah says 2 paradises? That person will be given 2 heavens. That whosoever fears the station, the status of Allah, will get 2 paradises. You know, I've looked and I've looked and I've looked and I've looked and I've looked to find what's the answer to this. Because one beautiful thing about Islam, it's the last of the divine religions revealed in the full light of history. The ministry of Noah is lost to antiquity, except what remains with us in the Bible and in the Quran. The ministry of Moses is lost to antiquity, except what remains in the Bible and the Quran. The ministry of Jesus, for the most part, although Hazrat Isa's ministry, alayhi salatu wassalam, comes just before the dawn, right at the brink of the dawn of the historical era, you could say. So he's right on the cusp of it. Islam is the last of the divine religions revealed in the full light of history. The reason these Wahhabis in Saudi Arabia are destroying the historical sites is because of this. One of the proofs that we have for our religion is not just Quran, it's not just Hadith, but it's history. We have historical mile markers, landmarks that link us with the reality of the spiritual truth that was revealed to us. And when the Saudis make the excuse of expanding the holy sites to destroy ancient sites, what they're really doing is destroying your history. Marcus Garvey said, a people without knowledge of their history is like a tree without roots. They're tearing away at our roots. We pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala may destroy them even quicker than He destroys Daesh, insha'Allah. Ameen. Salawat. Perhaps no greater damage has been done to Islam than by these mala'in. They've defaced Islam worldwide. Fear, if it fills up the heart, where will the fear of Allah fit in? And let's understand something. When we wonder about our kids, a brother was talking to me tonight, he's saying, a lot of people want to spend money on their kids. How many of us spend time on our kids? And spend time on our kids, that's the most valuable thing you can spend on your kids. I always tell people who get scared about getting married, I tell them, look, understand something about women and children. They don't want money. If you're with a woman who wants money, put your running shoes on, tie them up tight, and run. What do women want? What do children want? What does a family want? Time. But what time? If you're at work till 9 o'clock at night, and you get home after your kids have gone to bed, and you don't spend any time at home with your wife, building your relationship, then don't be surprised if you end up divorced and your children gone astray. It's happening right before your eyes every day. What you thought them guys were exceptions that this is happening to, or it won't happen to me? Continue living the life you're living and see what it does with you. Spend time on your children. Spend time on our families, inshallah. This is that most important thing that we could do. Fear fills our heart. And we have to free ourselves, inshallah, from this fear. Irreligiousness also is caused by fear. When you see people take off the hijab, it's fear that made them take off the hijab. Why? Because they want to look like everybody else. They're afraid to stick out. I was never that type of kid. I want to stick out. You guys should do your best to stick out also. I hate when brothers come and say, brother, please talk to the sisters about hijab. And the guy who's telling me about talk to the sisters about hijab, he shaved clean as a baby's backside. How are you going to come tell me about women's hijab when you're not wearing your hijab? Let's be honest with each other here. Bidini, loss of our religious values is caused by fear. Why do some men shave? Because they want to fit in. They want to look like a Roman. Yeah, they do. You know what Romans used to do, right? You know why Romans like a shaved face, right? It's mimbar, so we won't say why. Salawat.
We're really packed in the back there, please. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Fear causes us. We want to fit in. We want to look like everybody else. We want to talk like everybody else. We want to dress like everybody else. But when we go so far, we want to wear the same clothes as everybody else. I tell my kids, like, what's the difference between here and Cuba? If you have to wear the same name brand clothes that your friends wear, and you have to wear the same style of clothes that your friends wear, and the same bag that your friends have, and the same car that your friends drive, but this is communism. You want everybody to be dressed in one uniform. Everybody have to be driving one car, live in one type of house. This sounds like socialism, and this sounds like Leninism, Marxism to me. Doesn't sound like America to me. I thought America was a place where we could be free to be who we want to be. And not be free to follow somebody else. Follow fashion monkey, as we say back home. Can't be a follow fashion monkey. Insha'Allah. So, su'edan, bad opinion of Allah, is the cause of a lot of our fears. We had promised you, insha'Allah, that tonight we would begin speaking about that second root of fear. That second root of fear is love. And people are like, what? Well, how can love cause fear? I mean, something as beautiful as love. I mean, does love hurt? No. Love doesn't hurt. Love is something wonderful. Love is something beautiful. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created this universe out of love. Love is the mihwar, the centerpiece of the universe. So how is it that I can come here and sit here with you today and say that love is a cause of fear? It is. And it's responsible for a great deal of our fears. Why? Because when you love something, you fear to lose it. Whenever you have deep love for something, then to lose that. One time we went out to eat somewhere, my daughter left her toy at the restaurant. We get all the way home and she says, Baba, we forgot this at the restaurant. I said, Belesh Khan, forget about it. We'll get another one. She starts to cry. She says, no, I want that one. She loves it. And when you love something, you fear losing it. And one of the causes of many of our fears is that those things are afraid of losing them. And when you love something, you don't want to give it up. So this love, and especially hubb bid-dunya, love for dunya, love of the life of this world and its pleasures, is part of the reason why we have so many fears and are surrounded by so many fears. Why? Because these things that we love and enjoy, we fear to lose them. And we make decisions based on not giving up our beloved. There's some hadith that we should probably read in this respect. Sanna salawat, insha'Allah. Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam says to his companion Hisham, whoever loves the world will fear death and will fear the afterlife. One thing that makes dying very difficult, maybe you've read in the fiqh books, and if you haven't, one thing I don't understand about Muslims is like, Maraji Taqleed put out Tawzih al-Masail. What do you think? They spent that money to print that book, Risalatul Amaliyah, what do they call it in English again? Islamic Practical Laws. You think they printed them books alaki, without any aim and goal? They printed it for us to have it in our hands, have it in our homes, and read it, understand it. Whenever we read about death in these Risalatul Amaliyah, they tell you that in the throes of death, you should put someone to face the Qibla, recite Quran in their presence, do talqeen, reminding them of what we believe, because it eases the pain of death. In the riwayat they have it that the soul is withdrawn from the body, from the feet up. And again, this may be just symbolic language. Again, we'd need a volunteer. Anybody interested? Raise your hand. Soul is extracted from the body, from the feet up. And traditionally they say it exits through the top of the head. That's why it's mustahab to cover one's head, especially during Salat. And you see all divine religions have this. Jews cover their head. Christians, in days of yore, covered their heads. My daughter comes home the other day and says they teased me in class about wearing hijab. I told her, go back and tell whosoever is teaching you to Google Mary. You can't find a picture of Mary out of hijab. You don't find it. She's got her scarf on. Anywhere you find her, she's got her scarf on. This death, throes of death, they call it, the pangs of death. You know what makes it exceptionally difficult to die, that you see people really going through a torment to die, and other people die relatively peacefully. Maybe we haven't spent enough time with dead or dying people as to notice this. Maybe we should. Do you guys have a janaza committee here? A committee that takes care of ghusl and these things? Put the young people on it. Don't let Maulana Abidi do it. Don't let the ulama only take the lead in that. You grow so much when you have to wash and prepare a dead body. A lot of us, because we're born and raised here in the West, we fear dead people. No, I'm afraid of living people. I have absolutely no fear of the dead. They're harmless. And one thing that informs us about our own mortality is to be involved in these rites. We should get involved in these rites. Usually sisters, especially, at least to my knowledge, we generally have a shortage of sisters when it comes to this role. Like if a sister passes away, it's generally difficult to find sisters to fill that role. Brothers and sisters should get involved. Why? We learn about these things that way. Death is more difficult when our hearts are very much attached to this world and the world of this life. And so the separation from the things that we love, we fear that, and so it intensifies the discomfort of death, of the soul being drawn out. And I'm sure we've all heard the story about Hazrat Imam Khomeini, Rizwan Allah alayhi, where Imam Khomeini, they say, when he was on his deathbed, he would not allow his grandson to come into the room. He wouldn't allow this grandson that he loved so much. You can go and you can find pictures of him playing with his grandson. In the West, we're used to seeing, the real stern face of Hazrat Imam. And this is the face that's become famous in the West. But you can find pictures of him, and many pictures in Iran, of him serving tea to his family, of him playing with his children and grandchildren. He loved this grandson of his immensely, but on his deathbed he said, no, don't let him in. Why? Because that love that he has for that grandson will hold him here, prevent him from traveling. So he says, don't let him in. Now, whenever we bring up this subject of hubb dunya, love of the world, I see everybody's face drops because people want to enjoy life. I mean, we're Muslims. We're not Jains. Jains, have them in India. They live a very tough life. I mean, these guys walk around and sweep ants out of their way because they don't want to hurt anything. We're Muslims. We want to enjoy this life also. But there's a difference between getting those enjoyments that Allah has enjoined for us, allowed for us, that He said is halal for us, and becoming attached to those things. And this is a very important distinguishment that we have to make. When I say hubb dunya, love of the world, the first thing that comes in a lot of people's minds is, oh no, so that means we have to go live in a cave, drink water from a river, build a fire to cook our food, and live like a darvish, live like a Sufi or something. No. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to take pleasure from this life. He didn't create us to suffer some type of tragic type of life that has no pleasure, no enjoyment, just filled with ritual and deeds and rites. No, we're expected to enjoy this life also. And I think we had mentioned this before. This gaining of pleasure from the life, there's nothing wrong with that. Allah wants us to do that, but He wants us to do that with control. Pleasure without self-control is harmful to the human being. Ice cream is very pleasurable. I especially like ice cream with all types of stuff in it, like brownies and nuts and chunks of this and that and caramel, and this type of ice cream is very enjoyable. But sit down and eat that every day, and what will happen? Does it become enjoyable anymore? No, absolutely not. Any pleasure in life that we enjoy without any self-control becomes harmful for the human being. Anything at all, even water. You drink too much water, they have a thing that's called, what do they call it? Like water toxology or something. Toxicity or something, yeah. Water intoxication, barakallah, alhamdulillah. This can happen. Something as necessary for life as water can also kill you. Something that simple. Any pleasure in life has to be under control. Allah said eat, but don't eat anything and everything. You have to have some control. Me, I personally think pigs are here for spare parts, because we use pig insulin for human diabetics, pig heart valves for humans with weak heart valves of their own. And the ulama have said this is absolutely fine, there's no problem with that, go ahead. So what if Allah put pigs here for spare parts, but these guys are busy eating up all the spare parts? So when human beings break down, then what do we do? Everything here to be eaten. He said eat and enjoy, but He didn't say eat everything. Allah said drink and enjoy, but don't drink everything. There's some things you shouldn't drink. Alcohol is a great solvent. It cleans things. Brothers who work in electronics, they know that. You work in a mechanic shop, you know that. Alcohol is a wonderful something. It does a great job. What the heck? That's industrial supplies. If you drink it all up, how are we going to clean our electronics? Allah wants us to take pleasure from life. Allah expects us to enjoy life. Eat, drink, he tells Adam, ragada. Eat as you like. But don't approach this one tree. Don't approach this one tree. This is Adam's test now. Adam, the first human being, now has to learn what? Self-control. Adam, live in the garden. Everything you need is in this garden. Eat from the garden as you like, but don't go near this one tree. Because if you do, then you'll be one of the wrongdoers. You'll be one of the wrongdoers. Now, we of course, as Shias, we do not believe that Adam committed any sin by eating from this tree. Why? Because here is Adam who's been created, Adam who's been educated, but education without some teaching of responsibility is no good. You have Adam and he has a free choice, but if he doesn't have any experience with using that free choice, what good is it to him? If he doesn't understand consequences, what good is that to him? Free choice without consequences, you can't understand it. So Adam has to be taught consequences. Adam has to be taught self-control. This is Adam's graduation from Eden. Don't think that Allah put Adam to live in Eden forever. He wasn't there to live in that garden forever. This test of the tree was his graduation ceremony to carry his message now into the world. Adam was going to leave the garden. He wasn't going to stay there forever. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us to take pleasure in this life, to enjoy this life. We're not expected to give up on this life and, wear rough clothing, rucksack clothing, crocus bag. I don't know what they call it in America. Back home we call it crocus bag. I don't know what they call it. The real rough material that onion bags are made out of. You're not expected to wear that. You don't have to ride a donkey. You don't have to get on the back of a horse. You're expected to take pleasure from this life, but do it with some control. Pleasure has to be under control. Just like this body, it's an animal. But we want the animal under the control of aql. Not the aql in control of the body. Not the intellect under the control of the animal. No. Animal under the control of the intellect. This is what Allah wants from us. Self-control is something absolutely necessary. And without it, this is where fears come from. We get attached to the dunya. We start to loving the dunya, and anything that we love, we will be fearful of losing, of giving up. And so many decisions that we make in our life are based on this type of fear of losing something that we love and we enjoy. It creates havoc in family lives, creates havoc in married lives. When this feeling goes out of control, we love something and we fear losing it. It creates suspicion. It creates bad opinions in our minds. All because of what? Because of fear. So along with su'dhan, along with a bad opinion of Allah being one of the roots of fear in our hearts, along with that is hubb dunya, love of the pleasures of this world without any control. Bar Muhammad wa ali Muhammad salawatullah.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
One thing we have to always remember, when Allah created Adam, He created our grandfather Adam as his representative in the earth. That means this earth was created for us. We already own it. We own this earth. It's ours. Every beast that walks this earth is afraid of us. You never notice that? Kids know that. A dog, most dogs are scared of people. And if you see a dog that's not scared of people, pick up a stick and see if he's not scared of you anymore. Animals flee from human beings. Look at how we've brought different things under our control. We have solar power now, hydropower. This earth is created for us. We are Allah's representatives in this earth. The things of this world are already ours, so there's no reason for us to pursue them as we do. There's a hadith from Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali alayhi salatu wassalam, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. And the same hadith is mentioned by Prophet Muhammad. They say that whosoever, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. They say that whosoever loves the world and pursues it, it flees from them. It runs away from them. This is the secret. Brothers and sisters, understand the secret I'm going to tell you now. Whosoever pursues the world, it runs away from them. Whosoever says, I renounce you, like Imam Ali said, I divorce you 3 times. Whoever divorces the world and puts his trust and his hope only in Allah, then the dunya advances to him, comes towards him. When I was in Iran, I was very good friends with Ayatollah Behjat's son. We became kind of close. We shared a habit, and we'll keep it there. After certain jalasat, we would have to go outside. We were together in this way, and we used to hang out together time and again. Although he's much older than myself, I knew him through some other students. And one time he was telling us about all the things that people come and offer his father. Like one guy wanted to give Ayatollah Behjat this huge house with a swimming pool in the backyard. In Qom. Like, Baba, Ayatollah Behjat, can you see him in a swimming pool? It's not gonna happen. He never accepted the gift, but this guy wanted to give him a house with a swimming pool in it. He says so many young women line up to try to marry Ayatollah Behjat. Baba, he's 70-something years old, 80-something years old, 20-something-year-old women are saying, Allah, marry me. And his son used to say, you know, dunya is passing by his door because he's renounced it. This is why it's coming to him like that, because he says, dunya, I don't want you. So I say, well, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to hide in the bushes outside of his door. And when dunya comes by, we'll grab it. He might not want it, but we could make use of that swimming pool. Whosoever renounces the world, whosoever puts the world and its pleasures under control, this is the key that unlocks the world to us, unlocks our own khilafat and vicegerency of Allah in the earth. You think it's something that you hear about Hazrat Isa, and this is a miracle that every prophet has committed. Every prophet has done this miracle to feed people with a small amount of food. How is it that Hazrat Isa, Hazrat Musa, Hazrat Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, how is it that they were able to perform these miracles of feeding multitude of people with a little bit of food? Because they have command over the food. How is it that you hear about miracles where prophets pick up a handful of dirt and the dirt changes into gold coins? They have command over the earth. And don't think it's something that's like far-fetched or unscientific. Everything here is made out of the same stuff. This microphone is made out of the same stuff that everything else is made out of. Just change the atoms around a little bit and we could change it to plastic. Move stuff around inside of it a little bit, molecules, and you know, all you have to do is have control over it. And the only way to gain control over it is to practice control over it. This dunya is ours. No karimast, hemarimast. It's our slave. It's our donkey. We're supposed to ride this world. It belongs to us. And the reason we can't ride it is because we have no control over this donkey. It's like a rodeo. We're getting on and we're getting bucked off because the ride is out of control. Bring the ride under control and you'll have all the access on it. This is what one of the causes of many of our fears is. We love things, we fear to lose them. You know, one thing that we see that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says in riwayat hadith al-Qudsi, he says that whosoever says La hawla bala quwwata illa billahi al-aliyyul azim, there is no strength or no power save in Allah, whosoever says this, then this world is at his feet. Yani he's become fearless now. It's recommended in a hadith to say La hawla wala quwwata illa billah 7 times after our salat. And whoever does this, it's mentioned in a hadith, will be delivered from fear. So, one thing that we should realize then, control, especially in regards to this hubb dunya, is something absolutely necessary for us. If we are to have a fear of losing anything that we love, it should be fear of losing the love of Allah. Fear of losing the love of Ahl Bayt alayhim salam. Fear of losing the love of Islam. These things, these loves, we should fear losing. Other loves that we have in our life, put them under control, brothers and sisters. Practice this, because this is the key to delivering ourselves from a great deal of our fears. Who loved more than Ahl Bayt alayhim salam? Who expressed more love in their lives than members of Ahl Bayt alayhim salam? Look at how much Amirul Mu'mineen Ali alayhi salatu wasalam, how much he loved Imam Hussein. Not to say that he loved him any more than he loved his other children, but just, it's Muharram. Let's talk about Karbala. The love that Ali has for Hussein is not a love that will tell Hussein, avoid Karbala. It's a love that prepares Hussein for Karbala. It's not a love that tells Hussein, Hussein, you should stay far from Karbala. It's a love that tells Hussein, Hussein, go to Karbala, but I will be there with you. This is what Amir al-Mu'mineen does. After the death of Hazrat al-Zahra, Imam Ali gets remarried to a woman famously known as Baneen. It means the mother of sons. Amongst these sons was Hazrat Abul Fadl al-Abbas. I mean, have you really understood who is Abbas? Abbas is someone that Imam Ali alayhi salatu wasalam wanted, loved. That Imam Ali was making du'as for an Abbas that could represent him himself at Karbala with Imam Hussein. Understand who is Abbas. From his earliest childhood, he understood his relationship to Hussein. You read the riwayat of how he used to follow Hussein around. Even in childhood, this attachment exists between them. Even though Hussein alayhi salatu wasalam is significantly older. But Hazrat Abbas, he looks up to his brother Hussein. He loves his brother Hussein. He always referred to him as Sayyidi, my master. Sayyidi, my master. Understand who is Abbas. At the age of 14 or 15, Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib takes Abbas to Siffin. And at Siffin, Ali decides to test Abbas. He says, Abbas, come. And he dresses him. At this time, even though Abbas is only in his mid-teens, he's a big boy. Strong. Powerfully built. Ali calls him and says, get dressed. And dresses him in his armor. And then he tells him, Abbas, cover your face. Why does he want Abbas to cover his face when he goes into the battle at Siffin? Why? Because Ali is saying, Abbas, karat darama. Abbas, I have some work for you to do, but today go into the battlefield and cover your face. They say that when Abbas entered the battlefield at Siffin, he engaged the enemy so ferociously. One man stands up and says, May I sacrifice 1,000 lives just so that I can kill this youth. They understood that it was a young man before them. They didn't know it was Abbas. They didn't know it was the son of Amir al-Mu'mineen. This man had 7 sons present with him, fighting against Amir al-Mu'mineen at the Battle of Siffin. He says, by God, I will send my own against him until they vanquish him. He sends son number 1. Abbas finishes him. Number 2, number 3, number 4, 5, 6, and 7, until Hazrat Abbas wipes out all 7 sons of this man. Then this man himself goes forward, and Abbas kills him also. Now Ali says, Baste dige. That's enough, Abbas, come back. I have work for you elsewhere. Know who is Abbas. In Medina, during the Khilafat of Imam Hassan, Abbas was one of the strongest supporters of Imam Hassan alayhi salatu wasalam, to the point where Imam Hassan had to hold Abbas back. Like, take it easy, Abbas. Nabudashun nakonid. Don't wipe them out, Abbas. Take it easy. Abbas, we have to do sulh. We have to make a peace. Hassan had to tie the hands of Abbas. Know who is Abbas? This story that you hear, that Hussein's camp didn't have water for 3 days before the day of Ashura, you think this could ever happen with Hazrat Abbas present? Historical record dictates that at least 2 times before Yom Ashura, Hazrat Abbas was able to smash the lines of the enemy, enter the Euphrates River, fill up his water skins, and return to the camp. On the night of Ashura, everybody in the camp made ghusl. Not wuzu, you know. Not tayammum. Ghusl, they took baths. Because of the heroism and bravery and fearlessness of Abbas. Abbas meidan dar bud in Karbala. He was owning the battlefield. It was because of his fearlessness and ferocity that you have Ali Akbar able to go forward. That you have Qasim able to go forward. That you have these members, even Ashab, able to go forward. Because for as long as the alam of Abbas is held high, the enemies were afraid to attack. Imam Hussein comes to Abbas and says, Abbas, the children are thirsty. Abbas, go and get some water for us. Abbas, the children are thirsty. You know what's to show you, to prove to you who is Abbas? Abbas took the command of Hussein and did not even do Khuda Hafizi with members of Ahl Bayt. He did not say any goodbyes. Because in the mind of Abbas, this was just another trip to the river. He had done it twice before, and he knew that fearlessly he could do it again. Abbas sets out with the water skins over his shoulder, and he smashes the enemy lines and reaches into the Euphrates River, fills his water skins, turns around. He has those water skins on his right shoulder. From the camp, they cannot see what Abbas is doing. When he went to the river, he went directly to the river. But now that Abbas is returning to the camp, he goes through the Nakhlistan, through the grove of date palms that's there. Abbas, why have you gone through the grove of date palms? Abbas, it's too easy for people to hide in there and wait in ambush for you. Abbas, why have you gone through the date palms? People are hiding in there, Abbas. But Abbas knows that the date palms will give those water skins cover. Abbas doesn't care about tactics now. Abbas doesn't care about strategy. His aim is to protect his precious cargo, so he cuts through the date palms. But waiting in there is the enemy. As he passes by one tree, his right arm is cut off. He reaches and grabs those water skins with his left arm. Soon after, his left arm is cut off. Abbas, with that strength, with that vigor, with that power, if you would go to al-Banin and tell al-Banin Abbas's hands were cut off, she would say, you're lying. Not my Abbas. Not with that strength and that power that my Abbas had. No way they cut off my Abbas's arms. Abbas grabs the water skins with his teeth and continues. Abbas is fearless, and he loses no momentum until the water skins are pierced. When arrows pierce the water skin, things change for Abbas. It doesn't matter to Abbas that he's lost his arms. What matters to Abbas now is that the water skins have been punctured. Abbas is struck. He falls from his horse, and someone comes and strikes him over the head with a pole. Imam Hussein says, In qasarha zahri. They've broken my back. It's as if Hussein is saying, Abbas, get up! Abbas, who will protect the children? Abbas, get up! The enemy will now feel bold. Abbas, stand up! But Abbas isn't standing. Hussein rushes to the side of Hazrat Abbas. He clears the blood from the one eye of Hazrat Abbas. Cleans the mud from his face. Why is there mud on your face, Abbas? You know, when someone falls, they put their arms out to catch themselves. Anytime anyone falls, they catch their fall with their arms. When Abbas fell from the horse, he had no arms to catch his fall. He fell face down into the dirt. Imam Hussein rolls him over, clears his face. He says, Abbas, my brother, say something to me. Abbas, who was not able to solve his father's problem at Siffin. Abbas, who was not able to solve his brother's problem in Medina. What is the answer of Abbas to Hussein at Karbala? Hussein says, my brother, speak to me. Abbas says, Awafaita. Have I fulfilled my promise to you, Mawla? Say it, have I been loyal to your mission? This is all Abbas cares about. Imam Hussein begins to take Abbas back to the camp. The camp that Abbas never said goodbye to. The camp that Abbas never made Khuda Hafizi to. Imam Hussein tries to take Abbas back. Abbas says, Hussein, no. Hussein, no, you leave me here, Hussein. Look at what Hussein says to Abbas. Hussein says, Abbas, may I be your sacrifice. Let me take you back to the camp. Abbas says, no. If the children should see me return without the water, then they will lose hope. Leave me here, Hussein, leave me here. To this day, when you go to Karbala, you see the shrine of Hazrat Abbas some distance from the shrine of Imam Hussein. Every haram in the world has a dua called Izn al-Dukhul, permission to enter that shrine. And when you go for ziyarat, you will see every shrine has a dua called Izn al-Dukhul, the permission to enter the shrine. Every shrine has that dua except one. Except one shrine. That shrine is the shrine of Imam Hussein. Imam Hussein's shrine has no Izn al-Dukhul, no dua to gain permission to enter the shrine. Why? Because Hussein says, Izn al-Dukhul to my haram is that you do ziyarat of Abbas first. Don't come to my grave until you go and see my brother Abbas first. You know, in the time of Saddam, we went for ziyarat. We saw for ourselves the water of Furat entering the grave of Abbas. Abbas, you were not able to return the water to the camp. So the water now comes to you, Abbas. Now the Furat has made its way underground to where the basement of the shrine of Abbas is constantly damp, constantly flowing with water. Furat is part and parcel of the grave now of Abbas. وَلَا حَوْلَ وَلَا قُوَّةَ إِلَّا بِاللَّهِ الْعَلِيُّ الْعَظِيمِ وَلَعْنَةُ اللَّهِ عَلَى قَوْمِ الظَّالِمِينَ آمين رب العالمين. ماتم حسين. يا حسين 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 يا حسين
أبا الفضل يا عباس 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 أبا الفضل يا عباس. All together. أبا الفضل يا عباس 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 Abul Faz, I still cannot let you ride, bearer of my flag, power, all majesty and pride. You're my backbone, please stay here by my side. Relic of my father, I'll be broken if you die. Bloody soil, bloody sword, and bloody turbans. Abul Faz, ya Abbas. Pouring out on the sand is a water skin. Abul Faz, ya Abbas. Master, when will I see your face again? Abul Faz, ya Abbas. Call me brother, oh Abbas, for the stand. Abul Faz, ya Abbas. 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 Abul Faz. On the day when the blood stains covered me, nothing but the face of my Imam would comfort me. I left my sword because my Mala ordered me, and walked the path of love that had annihilated me. This blood of mine flowing like an ocean to you. Abul Faz, ya Abbas, is all I have to offer in devotion to you. Abul Faz, ya Abbas. Paradise is the face of yours in front of me. Abul Faz, ya Abbas. Your approval means that like whore I am free. Abul Faz, ya Abbas. Abul Faz, MashaAllah. Abul Faz, ya Abbas. Abul Faz, ya Abbas. Abul Faz, MashaAllah. Every man has a chance to show himself. Sometime in his life he will come to know himself. Good or bad, when the call is to Islam, some of us will stand, only some of us will respond. Oh Hussein, your Abbas, he hears you calling. Abul Faz, ya Abbas. Oh Hussein, your Abbas, he hears you calling. Abul Faz, ya Abbas. In the middle of the desert, bare and bloody. Abul Faz, ya Abbas. And the shrieks of women who are screaming. Abul Faz, ya Abbas. He'll answer you and he'll be stopped by nothing. Aba al-Fadl, Ya Abbas, Aba al-Fadl, MashaAllah, Aba al-Fadl, Saba al-Fadl. Out on the field, I swear I saw. Out on the field, I swear I saw Ali riding to bring water back to his thirsty family. He was tall and his face struck on me, holding that water skin and fighting it desperately. In Karbala, Bani Hashim lost his full moon. Aba al-Fadl, Ya Abbas. In Karbala, Bani Hashim lost his full moon. Aba al-Fadl, Ya Abbas. You will meet the Prophet's family so soon. Aba al-Fadl, Ya Abbas. You want to know if Fatima is proud of you. Aba al-Fadl, Ya Abbas. She weeps with pride, for you did all the son can do. Aba al-Fadl, Ya Abbas. Aba al-Fadl, Ya Abbas. Aba al-Fadl, Ya Abbas. Aba al-Fadl, Ya Abbas. Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas, Ya
Ya Abbas,
Ya Abbas,
Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas, Ya
Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya
In Karbala, thirsty Mawla, Ya Sar Allah, 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 Ya Sar Allah.
Sent to her uncle, Rogaya in Yal. Water, oh uncle, water, oh uncle, thirst not bearable. In Karbala, thirst. In Karbala, thirsty Mawla, Ya Thar Allah, Ya Thar Allah. Thirsty Mawla, MashaAllah, Ya Thar Allah. Everyone, Ya Thar Allah, Ya Thar Allah, Ya Thar Allah. Said to her uncle, Rogaya in ya, water, oh uncle, this there's not bearable. In Karbala, thirsty Mawla, follow my hand. In Karbala, this works. Ya Thar Allah, Ya Thar Allah, Ya Thar Allah. Hazrat Abbas went to Shatforat went to fetch some water for kids in the tent. In Karbala, thirsty Mawla, everyone. In Karbala, thirsty Mawla, Ya Sar Allah, Ya Sar Allah, Ya Sar Allah, Allah. Abbas fetch water, full bag of water, thirsty for water, thirst feed of water, drank he no water. In Karbala, thirsty Mawla, in Karbala, thirsty Mawla, Ya Sar Allah, Ya Sar Allah, Ya Sar Allah, MashaAllah, Ya Sar Allah. Ya Allah. En route to Hortense, en route to Hortense, circled Abbas tents, circled Abbas tents, enemies of his, block his re-entrance, blocks his entrance. Sword came down on him, swords came down on him, was cut his right limb, was cut his right limb, held back in left one, held back in left one, then lost his left limb in Karbala, thirsty Mawla, in Karbala, thirsty Mawla, Ya Sar Allah, Ya Sar Allah, Ya Sar Allah, Allah. Aimed arrow his eye, aimed arrow his eye, fell Abbas to die, fell Abbas to die, burst water in sky, burst water in sky, Yad Abbas know why, Yad Abbas know why, in Karbala, thirsty Mawla, in Karbala, Mawla, Ya Sar Allah, Ya Sar Allah, Ya Sar Allah, Ya Sar Allah. Oh my Abbas, 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 bravest of us, Abbas, 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 where is Abbas? Abbas, 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 Abbas. Of words that are true, I say this of you, no brother on earth is truer than you. No more could you give, no more could you do. Abbas, 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 Abbas. Oh my Abbas, 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 oh my